Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, world. Welcome once again to Tuesday Talk with Key West Lou. I am your host, Louis Patrone. Well, the only way I can describe this past week is wowie. The world is in turmoil. The world is crazy. The world is upside down, and that includes our wonderful country, the United States of America. I want to start the show tonight with an observation. It's a damning one, it's a slamming one, but it's simple and the point is quite clear. I believe, and I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats alike at this point. I'm not distinguishing between the two because as far as I'm concerned with regard to certain matters, they are in the same bed. They are on the same side of the street. I refer to our senators and congressmen. They continue to do what they do best. And do you know what they do best? They do nothing. You heard me. Our senators and congressmen continue to do what they do best, and what they do best, my friends, is nothing. I want to start the show tonight also with Homeland Security. Finally, today, Boehner put forth the bill before the House of Representatives with no additions, a pure funding bill for the balance of the year, and it passed. Of course, only 70 Republicans supported him, but the Democrats did the right thing en masse and voted for it, and he was able to get it passed. We now can feel secure because we know that our Department of Homeland Security is operating. You know, I consider it an absolute disgrace, a shame, an absolute shame. It embarrassed us before the whole world that we couldn't get this Department of Homeland Security funded. First they give us 3 weeks, then they give us a week. We look like horses' asses to the rest of the world. We are the mighty United States. We are considered, and we are the strongest nation in the world. However, how do we operate? And if we continue to operate as we have been for the past several years, with the Republicans doing a bad job, I got to put it that way. They've been interfering. They oppose for the pure sense of opposition, not because it is necessarily the right thing to do. We look bad. We look like horses' asses. And other countries are saying, how can we depend on the United States to help us if they cannot help themselves? And I've been saying this for 2 or 3 weeks now. Here we have the issue of war before Congress concerning ISIS. We have men and women in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and Syria dying. Okay, they are dying, they are being maimed, they are being wounded. We are told almost daily that an ISIS attack is imminent, probably in a great shopping center. ISIS attack is imminent, and yet it took these idiots 3 weeks to pass a piece of legislation that should have been passed immediately because it was for the good, the health, and the welfare of the United States. What we are confronted with in Congress continues to be the same problem that it has been in the last year. That's those 51 conservative Republicans, Tea Party Republicans. This is the far right. This isn't republicanism. This is opposition for the sake of opposition. This is throw a monkey wrench in the works. We don't care. Embarrass Obama, bring Obama down. Well, that's what they would rather do, and you see the consequences. The House of Representatives, Boehner in particular, took a big hit today. Very embarrassing for Boehner. He cannot control his party because of these people. Now we go to something that I found extremely interesting today, and if you have not had the opportunity to watch, Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, his talk before the Congress of the United States today, he appeared before the House of Representatives. His talk took approximately an hour, and I got to tell you, it was great theater. I saw the TV show. I was impressed. He's a fantastic speaker. He's a showman, no question about it. He's got to be a great politician. He's as good a talker as Obama is. They're different. They have a different style, but both very effective. He was well received by those in Congress. You know, the Democrats said they weren't going to show up because he shouldn't have been there today, Netanyahu. And the reason he shouldn't have been there was the president did not invite him. We have known for ages in this country that once you leave the beaches of the United States, once you leave the shores of the United States, foreign relations are the bailiwick of the president. He still has to get support from Congress, but the president makes first decisions, and then Congress can approve or disapprove them. And that includes inviting a foreign leader, a leader of another nation, to come before the Congress of the United States and speak. And he was asked to come by Boehner as Speaker of the House, which I thought was a slap in the face to our president. You just don't do this kind of thing. It would be an embarrassment. If a Democrat did it to a Republican president, I would label it the same way: an embarrassment, a shame, a terrible thing. I watched the reception on television that Netanyahu received today. He was like a conquering hero returned. He reminded me of Douglas MacArthur. After Truman fired him and he came back to the United States, he was invited to speak before Congress. He got the same type of reception as MacArthur did 60-some-odd years ago. All right? He got that kind of a reception. Our president, when he makes a State of the Union address, whether it's Obama or it was Bush or anyone else, our presidents don't get that type of reception from Congress. This was a fantastic reception. He had to be very proud. But he didn't belong there, and the Republicans should not have invited him. No good will come of it, all right? No good can come of it. Again, great theater. This guy is terrific, great theater. He didn't say anything. He said bad with Iran, but he didn't tell us what to do. He thinks he knows what the decision's going to be, what the pact is going to be, the agreement between the United States and Iran. Now, he may very well know. We don't know, but he may know because I respect Israeli intelligence. I think it is the finest in the world. And he's saying, we started off, we wanted 20 years, that they weren't going to produce anything nuclear, and we're down to 10 years. And he says, you got to watch how they can, the centrifuges they have. You can't let them increase the number. He had it down to a science. He knew what was going to happen. But he didn't tell us what to do other than, you got to get a better deal. He didn't say you get 12 years, 15 years. He says you must get a better deal. Well, that's no help. Tell us what the better deal is. If you had the testicles to come here and talk as you did, okay, and he only did this to get elected. He's got a vote coming up in 2 weeks in his country, and he's in trouble running for prime minister again, and that's why he was here. And again, I can't understand why someone in authority and responsibility such as Boehner and the Republican Party would invite him to speak, knowing it has never been done before like this in the history of the United States. Well, that's how I feel about it. He should not have been there. I enjoyed watching him. I saw nothing good coming out of this because nothing constructive came out of his talk. He came here a hero. Again, the theater was outstanding. The people in the gallery. This was better than a State of the Union address. And the smiles on the face of the Republicans, fantastic. And I'm going to tell you this too. The smiles on the faces of the Democrats in attendance, just as great. They looked as if this was a glorified person they were observing. And I think it was wrong for all of them. The man should not have been there. Shame on everyone involved. Shame on anyone who embarrasses our president, the president of the United States, in this fashion. Which brings me now to Senator Kerry, former Senator Kerry, now our Secretary of State. I think he's doing a lousy job as Secretary of State. It's the only way I can say it, and here is why. He talks too much. Do you notice he's on television all the time, no matter what kind of a meeting he has? If it's a half-hour meeting or a whole-day meeting, he comes out and he tells you what's going on, and he speaks in a positive fashion as if something is going to be accomplished, something great or fantastic. And inevitably, when it's all over, he doesn't achieve that end. You know, he comes out and says, well, we did this. This is good anyhow. I liked the man as a senator for years. I loved him as head of the Judiciary Committee for years, but I think he makes a very poor Secretary of State because he does not know how to keep his mouth shut. Which brings me to something else. The human rights body of the United Nations. We get the United Nations on our back all of a sudden. We're not treating the blacks properly. Now they're talking about this. The human rights body of the United Nations said yesterday that they came to Israel's defense. They said, we support Israel's position in this. The United States position is wrong. They're not pushing Iran enough. And Kerry broadcast that even more to the rest of the world. I don't understand what's going on other than that this man talks too much, and I don't think that is healthy for our foreign affairs. I'm going to switch over to banks for a moment. You probably have not heard what I am going to share with you at this time. It's going to be hard to believe. I started hearing this about 6 months ago from some friends in Italy. They were telling me this was coming. Their banks were doing it, and I said, "No way! It just doesn't work this way." And I'd pick up an isolated article here or there that in the United States this was coming. I want to talk about it a bit this evening. And what is the situation? Well, it's this. I call it insanity prevails. Insanity prevails. Now, when you borrow money from the bank, all right, you pay the bank for using that money. It's called interest. And if you put money in a savings or checking account, you leave money in the bank, your money, you let it accumulate for savings or what have you, the bank pays you interest. Well, the situation is now reversed in most nations in Europe. The banks invite you to borrow money, okay? They pay you to borrow money. I swear to God, they pay you to borrow money. They're opening their doors, come take our money, and I think this is like the money they gave away with the mortgages in the early 2000s. People could not afford to pay it back, but the banks were going to make a ton of dough off these things, and look at the calamity and the recession that hit our country. The same thing's going to happen here, but what the banks are going to do, I don't even know if you have to pay interest on a mortgage. They're going to pay you for taking out a mortgage, because I haven't been able to figure that part out yet. But they're going to give you money every time you make a loan. And if you have money on deposit, they're going to charge you for holding your money. Now, I know it sounds strange. Trust me, this is absolutely true. Normally, your savings deposits, they pay you now. We get interest, 1%, 0.5%, 1.5%. That's no more. They're going to charge you that same amount in reverse, okay? They're probably going to take it out of your savings account to hold your money. One United States bank is doing this already. One of the banks that got us involved in the mortgage problem big time, J.P. Morgan Chase. They have already started charging their big depositors. That's not you or me. I'm talking about the people that probably have millions or billions of dollars sitting in the bank. Why is this happening? This is a total reversal of how these things work. It used to be the banks needed your deposits because they took the deposits and they loaned that money out, charged interest, and that's how the bank made money, and then they paid you interest on. They were able to pay you interest on your savings account. It doesn't work that way anymore. The banks don't need our money. The banks do not need our deposits, okay? They get their money primarily today in the United States from the Federal Reserve. They borrow money from the Federal Reserve for 0.5 point or a point. They loan it out at 4, 5, 6%, and then pay it back, and they make the difference between 1% and 5% their profit. And they don't need our deposits. They don't want our deposits, apparently, or they would not be in a position where they're going to start shortly charging us for our deposits. The excuse they give for this, the reason is that there are new banking regulations that make it more expensive to handle large accounts. it costs the bank too much money. They can't make money if they hold on to your money. They're calling this large accounts. Now, large today may be $1 million. Large tomorrow may be $10,000 or $20,000, maybe $5,000. May have no level in the end. Okay, it depends on how they picture the situation. So, the banks in the United States that have been not loaning money, even since the bailout, are going to start encouraging loans. They're going to be asking you to come in. Their advertising is going to tell you to come in. They're going to make those loans that they haven't been making to Main Street. They're going to help the small businessman. They're going to help you get a loan for a new car, for home renovations, for a vacation, and they're going to be happy to give you the money, and they're going to pay you for borrowing the money. Isn't that wild? You know what this is called? This is a form of socialism, where you borrow money from the bank and they pay you for borrowing it. This sounds like things that were happening in Greece, by the way, and why Greece is in trouble today with the Euro Union. This is called monetary socialism. New terminology, my friends. Monetary socialism. It's going to be on us before the end of the year. I want to stay with banks for a moment. Banks are pigs. I have been saying this for years. I've said it on my TV show. I've said it in writing. I've said it on this show so many times. The banks became pigs in this country, and they've gotten too big for their own britches, but no one seems to be able to control them, including the government, because the government seems to always be on their side. All right? We can't win. The people cannot win. They make a lot of money. I have said many times that, while Main Street can't get a loan, while there is no longer a middle class, where now we have a 1%, 99% situation, bank CEOs, bank hierarchy, are getting $10, $20, $40 million bonuses every year. Some are getting in excess of $100 million a year in bonus money. I've spoken of this before, including the $100 million. It's ridiculous. How can anybody be worth that much money, which must mean they're making a lot of money for the banks, and this is a drop in the bucket to pay them that. They're getting paid to screw us because nobody's taking care of us. Now, here's what I want to give you an example of how the corrupt system works, in my opinion. I think the banks are corrupt to begin with, because they're laundering money, no question about it, all over the United States. We're laundering Mexican drug cartel money all the time. Our government knows it and does nothing about it. They're handling money for Islamic interests. Money moves through this country that goes forth to help terrorists, Islamic terrorists. No question about it. We know this, and we do nothing about it. They shouldn't be doing these things because they're hurting us. Banks hide money for millionaires so they don't have to pay taxes. They place the money in an offshore account, which is another bank, and they guard and protect that money and permit it so that these people, these companies that are making so much money, don't have to pay taxes on that money. Not right. So let's go to HSBC. HSBC, you've heard of it. It's the second largest bank in the world. It is an English bank. It has many offices in the United States. One of its subsidiaries operates through the company called BCC. They have a woman on board with them who assists them by the name of Rona Fairchild. Rona Fairchild. Now listen to the kind of money this woman makes. I'm happy she makes this money. This has nothing to do with male, female. Anybody that makes this kind of money is terrific, especially if you do next to nothing. Here's what Rona does. I don't know where she came from, who she is, but she is chairman of the BBC Trust. She's not on the board of directors of the bank. She's not on the board of directors because they always get paid, and it's a very part-time situation. She is chairman of the BBC Trust, which must be some subsidiary-type board. She must work 1 day a week, and for that, she is paid 500,000 £500,000 a year. Big money. 1 day's work, £500,000. Now, she also works in another capacity or is engaged, involved by the bank in another capacity, and she's supposed to work 3 days a week for this. She is overseeing BBC's activities on behalf of license fee payers, which means, and she gets £110,000 a year for this, but she's got to work 3 days for it. Doesn't sound like a good job. But now she's got two jobs. The first one, where she's getting £500,000, she's working for the bank's best interest. Where she's getting £110,000, she is working for the interest of the depositor. Obvious conflict of interest. You can't do both, but there she is. She's making over £600,000 a year. In addition to which, this is a wonderful country, isn't it? We all should be so blessed. She gets £130 more a year for being a director of, you got it, Pepsi-Cola. Europe Pepsi-Cola. She is a director and gets £130,000 a year for that job. Now, this is big money. This is big money when we got 1%, 99% in this country. And we have bankers who do the same thing. It's just that she stuck out like a sore thumb this past week, and I use her as an example because they're looking at her in Europe now, in Great Britain, saying, this woman's making all this money. What's she doing? We had a problem in this country. When the banks screwed us and put us under with the mortgage loans they shouldn't have made, we were told, all right, that they couldn't be prosecuted. And I say no. We should investigate bankers and prosecute them when they do wrong, okay? Because remember this. These bankers who are making all this money are dealing with terrorists. The same people are supposed to come over and kill us, the same people for which our boys and girls are dying in the Middle East for. They deal with drug dealers. We spend all this money to kill off the drug trade and are very unsuccessful, but yet they are helping and supporting the drug dealers, especially in the Mexican cartels, by handling their money and moving it around for them, helping them launder it worldwide. It's not right. It's not right, and it is creating not just a national problem, but a worldwide problem. It all sounds like Attorney General Holder told us back when we had the bailouts and everything else. Remember, his words are going to live with us for history. In history, everyone's going to remember him for this. I think he did a great job on civil rights. I think he screwed up just as big with regard to the banks. He says the banks are too big to fail. You remember those words? And then when he should have indicted someone, it was obvious there was wrongdoing, criminal wrongdoing at the heads of the banks. He says the banks are too big to prosecute. Well, my sense is we're going to go into that situation again where the banks are going to screw up with this new loan situation. They pay you to borrow money. They charge you for your deposits and all this other stuff they're doing, the ridiculous fees they pay themselves. We're heading for another problem with the banks. I hope this time the people come out on top. I doubt it because we just don't nobody takes care of us. And that includes our elected representatives who are supposed to take care of us. All right. Now, I want to talk about policemen. It was announced today by the United States Department of Justice. They issued their report, Ray Ferguson, Missouri. This has nothing to do with Michael Brown directly. They're going to issue a separate report on him shortly. The word is they're going to find no criminal wrongdoing. By the police. However, the report that came out today said there are sweeping patterns of bias, racial bias in Ferguson. The police force routinely work against blacks, use their power against blacks, issuing citations to them that should not be issued, making baseless traffic stops, not even giving out a ticket just to harass blacks. And they're saying this has got to stop. Now, I don't know what they do next with this, but this is a big report. This is what the Department of Justice has been doing for 6 months. They say something's wrong in this regard with Ferguson. The question becomes, what will you do our government? What will you do, Department of Justice? Or is this just a report that's going to go out there and sit? We shall see. I want to talk about policemen some more. The Newark chief of police retired this past week. His name's Sarber, S-A-R-B-E-R. He had a retirement dinner. He made a speech. He told the people, and I quote, honoring him at his retirement dinner, they don't respect police anymore like they used to. They don't respect police anymore. That means you and me. The people do not respect police anymore like they used to. Well, here's what I've got to say. If you want respect, you must give respect, and they do not. Policemen aren't giving respect to people. What do you expect in return? You don't respect me, I don't respect you. You defecate on me, I'm going to defecate on you. The fact that you're a police officer and you have a blue uniform makes no difference. In fact, it makes it worse. It's worse that you maltreat me, the person you are sworn to protect and save, the person who is helping to pay your salary, the taxpayer. That's number one. He said also that this disrespect has grown dramatically in the last 6 months since Ferguson occurred and Michael Brown got shot. It's grown, I can't remember the numbers he used, it's just out of sight, he said. He also said, and I think this was for the benefit of the police officer, that technology has changed. He said when he came on duty in the 1970s, he carried a 6-shot revolver. Today, police officers carry a 15-round pistol, He claims they have to do this to keep up with the guns that are on the street. If the people who are doing bad things carry 15-round pistols, then they must have 15-round pistols. It has changed. But why has it changed? It's changed because we haven't taken care of a certain element of our society, the black people. We haven't really moved them ahead as they should have been moved ahead. We're not taking care of our own white people. We're not taking care of our people, period. Not when you got a 1%, 99% situation. Not when you have a police force that for some reason, all these people are getting killed in this country all of a sudden. We never had this many police shootings before. Now it's happening all the time. Why? What's going on? Something's wrong, something's changed, and we're not going to correct the situation overnight. Guaranteed we are not going to correct it overnight. Which brings me to Los Angeles this past week. You're hearing about it on TV all over the place. Another police brutality case. The policemen were quick to shoot in this situation. A homeless man living in a tent, his name was nicknamed Africa. He had just spent 10 years in a mental institution. He's been out 6 months. He didn't have a gun. In L.A., they live in tents because they don't provide housing for the homeless overnight, and he slept in a tent. You're supposed to get out of the tent at 6 in the morning and take it down. He wasn't out, and he didn't take it down. 6 police officers, not one, showed up to remove him from the tent. He didn't want to leave. He went back in and closed the tent. Before things were over, 3 of the police officers shot him and killed him. 3 police officers shot and killed him. Why? One police officer was reported, shouted, "He's got a gun." Now that's changed in the last 24 hours. Now it's, "He's got my gun." Pictures were taken by the cameras on the police officers and some other surveillance cameras that were in the neighborhood. We haven't seen yet exactly what those videos show, but can you imagine? This guy shot by 3 police officers and killed. And the crowd that watched this, all of them said, shouldn't have been. They did not handle this guy properly. Okay, that's the show for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it. I hope I bring to your attention some things you might not have been aware of. I'm surprised by some of the things I discovered during the week here, and I want you to know what's going on here in more detail, and I try to present it in that fashion. I look forward to you joining me again next week. In the meantime, I tell you, those of you who have missed the show, can see the show's archived every week. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. You can listen to the show there, and I know most of you do because I get the numbers. I wrote a book, The World Upside Down. If you like this show, buy my book. If you don't like the show, don't buy the book because you won't like it. The book's available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Thank you again for joining me. See you next week.